The Olympics begin in Beijing, and all these fine Olympic specimens might have their DNA harvested. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. The Beijing 2022 Olympics begin this week. Athletes from around the world are now in Beijing, practicing on fake snow while trapped inside the Chinese government's COVID bubble. You see, to protect everyone from a fast-spreading virus that was absolutely not created in a Chinese lab, so stop talking about it, Chinese authorities created an invisible bubble around the Olympic facilities. They built walls, checkpoints, and whatever these are. Unfortunately, like so many things made in China, the Olympic bubble doesn't work. Well, at least the bubble hasn't worked to keep COVID out. But it has worked to keep people in. Reporters who've flown into Beijing to cover the games are now stuck inside. They've described the bubble as a surreal experience, filled with police escorts, daily COVID-19 tests, and robot chefs. Robot chefs? Are you terrified yet? Well, you should be more terrified of the daily COVID tests. Because to, keep COVID out, which as I explained, hasn't worked, they're testing everyone all the time, including around 3,000 of the world's top athletes. And the great thing about being an authoritarian regime in charge of collecting people's fluid samples for COVID testing is that you also have the opportunity to collect everyone's DNA. Now, I'm not saying there's any evidence they're collecting the DNA of the world's best athletes under the guise of a public health program, but I am saying that in the recent past, they have collected DNA from millions of ethnic minorities under the guise of a public health program. And I'm not saying they're going to use these athletes' DNA to try and create some kind of super soldier, but I am saying in the recent past, they have done a variety of human testing to create super soldiers. And I'm not saying they're going to use athletes' DNA to somehow track them, but I am saying that in the recent past, they have used DNA to track Chinese people, with the help of American company Thermo Fisher, no less. But anyway, the Chinese regime doesn't actually need DNA to track people. There's a much easier way. Their phones. Spying concerns have led many countries to tell their Olympians to bring burner phones to China and leave their own phones at home. But even with burner phones, Olympic athletes, officials, and journalists are required to share sensitive medical information on a Chinese Olympics app called My 2022. Everyone participating in the Olympics must download this app, which has access to information like people's passport numbers and COVID test results. And according to Citizens Lab, as the app collects a range of highly sensitive medical information, it is unclear with whom or which organizations it shares this information. The app also allows users to report politically sensitive content. The app also contains a censorship keyword list. According to Citizens Lab, the list looks inactive. But it makes everyone feel better, just knowing the censorship list is there. Good thing all the Olympic athletes now have the app installed on their phones and are also giving up their DNA. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the Olympics. Not in person, of course. You're not allowed to go. I mean on television. And if you start to feel sick, don't worry. It's probably just nausea caused by NBC and all your favorite brands kowtowing to the Communist Party by ignoring all the literal genocide happening right now across China. Or maybe it's just the panda making you feel sick. But if symptoms persist, you can always take one of the at-home COVID tests the U.S. government will be sending you. There's a good chance they will be made in China. And now it's time for me to answer a question from one of you, a fan who supports China Uncensored on the crowdfunding platform Patreon. Ringleader asks, "Hey Chris, what would the CCP do if many of the athletes in the Winter Games catch the CCP virus? How would they cover it up, if even possible?" Well, ringleader, if a small number of foreign athletes get COVID, it's easy enough to put them in quarantine and ban them from participating. But if a lot of athletes get COVID, or too many Chinese athletes get it, I suppose the Communist Party might try to cover it up instead. Not that the Chinese regime has ever covered up the spread of COVID in the recent past, but it's possible. Possible. They could try it this time. And it would be easy enough since all the test results are issued by Chinese labs with no third-party oversight. Perhaps certain athletes might come back with a negative COVID test even if they do have COVID. I'm not saying that would happen. Chinese state-run media have made it clear they would never manipulate COVID-19 test results, and you can trust Chinese state-run media. But if COVID does spread widely during the games, that's one way a cover-up could theoretically be done. Thanks for your question and your long-time support, Ringleader. And thank you for watching. Be like Ringleader and support China Uncensored with $1 or more per episode through the crowdfunding website patreon.com/China Uncensored. We rely on your support because we're not exactly getting funding from big companies, like the ones sponsoring the Beijing Olympics. Thanks for watching China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.